Chainsaw Man never ceases to amaze me with just how evil of a story it can be. The ups and downs, parallels between the first and second sagas, everything about it blows my mind away and reinforces just how good of a writer Tatsuki Fujimoto is. Unlike a lot of other shonen that deal with the basic concepts of a chosen hero type story, Fujimoto takes these ideas and maniacally twists them into what I can only call truly devious. The way he builds up the reader only to tear them down in a single devastating panel can never be understated, and well, this Aging Devil arc is full of it. I thought we'd seen the pinnacle throughout the final arc of part 1 with Makima's reveal, and I feel like he almost purposefully set the saga up like this, taking 2 years, laying his groundwork like a true goat, only to shatter all expectations over and over again. So of course, sit back and relax as we cover the awed over and utterly heartbreaking Aging Devil arc from throughout the warped world of Chainsaw Man. Waking up to the sight of more Fire Devil attacks and a nearby helicopter, Denji hallucinates Naota laying on his chest before Yoshida snaps him back to reality. Denji asks him what happened to Naota, but he tells him he doesn't know either. Enraged, the hybrid tries to get out of bed, but he's informed that he hasn't walked for about a week, so any effort to move is futile. Yoshida goes on to say that he tried his best to dumb down his explanation of the consequences of what would happen to Denji, but now that he's broken the rules, he can no longer help him. Leaving the room, he tells other members of public safety, including Fumiko, that he's drugged Denji. The woman asks Yoshida if public safety really will dismember him. When Yoshida confirms it, she eagerly asks if she can grab some fingernails and hair from his body, as the Japanese government will likely seize the rest of his body after they're done with it. When Yoshida asks if she's truly a fan of him, she replies that she's a collector, brandishing a pair of tweezers in her hand. While unconscious, Denji himself has another vision of Pochita. He tells him they have to get up and save Naota. Save her? The little Pochita asks him how he intends to do so when he doesn't have legs. Denji is then shown strapped to an operating table, one leg already amputated. Surgeons remove the next leg, labelled right leg 26, before one turns to a public safety member on guard and tells him off for smoking in the room. He then asks the member to leave, though the man clarifies that he's here to ensure Chainsaw Man is killed should he try to escape. It's revealed that the place Denji is being held is the Tokyo Devil Detention Center, and due to its maximum security, no devil has ever managed to get out. Armed personnel are on site around the clock, and the center is prepared for any contingency. It would literally take a war to compromise its security. However, unbeknownst to public safety, a certain someone has just shown up outside. Turns out it's Asa and Fami who have both made their way to the complex. Obviously Asa is still missing her arm from the bout she had against Yoshida. Can't believe it's been over a year since the last arc wrapped up. It's great finally coming back to Chainsaw Man now with this massive arc, the first 30+ chapter arc from Tatsuki. Anyways, and confused with the fits, Asa asks Fami why they're in their school uniforms, to which she responds that they're the least suspicious outfit they had. She explains that the facility is surrounded with sensors that will turn on the turrets, killing them in an instant, only for Yoru to interject, asking her older sister where Chainsaw Man currently is. Femi reveals to them that he's in the 3rd floor of the basement, which can only be accessed via the main gate of the building. The War Devil's task is to destroy it. Asa asks if defeating Chainsaw Man will save Denji, which Femi affirms once more. Internally, Yoru asks her other half if she's getting cold feet, but she regains her composure, remembering that Chainsaw Man had saved her over and over. Now it's her turn to save him. So just a quick update before we go too far into the video and everything, because this video was meant to be uploaded like 2 weeks ago with some Death Devil stuff included, but you know, I was right hooked by life and it set me back quite a bit. I had a filling in my wisdom tooth fall out, and while I was at the dentist's just hoping that I could get obviously another filling put back in so it wouldn't take me away from recording and whatnot, because the hole was cutting my gum. He was like, yo, I could just remove it for you and entirely get that problem, solved. So I decided to let him remove my tooth. Obviously then after that I was out of the game for 3 days. I couldn't really record or do anything. I could edit and stuff, which was alright, but I was on some pretty gnarly painkillers at the time, so it was kind of dozy. Then, that's not even the freaking half of it though. I was out chopping wood since it's obviously winter here in New Zealand, and the first bit of wood that I cut flung up and hit me in the freaking jaw, breaking my front tooth in half. And you know, I'll put an image up on screen now if you want to take a look at it, but look away if that's not exactly your thing, because it is kind of gruesome with the broken tooth snapped in half there and everything. And it had to happen just after 5 PM on a freaking Friday, which, if you didn't know, here in New Zealand as well, everything just shuts down on a Friday, so it's just the worst possible time. So I had no wisdom tooth and I could barely eat on this side of the mouth, and then I had no front tooth. It was just like the worst weekend I could possibly imagine. Luckily, my mum, who lives on the other island in New Zealand, came in clutch and managed to find an emergency dentist for me that I managed to get in contact with the next day, and they hooked me up with this dope-ass new front tooth, which I'll show you all now. But yeah, no, it's like, it's pretty dope to actually have a nice front tooth now. Before I didn't really like recording with my camera beforehand because I just had this big line going through my front tooth. So this was kind of a blessing in disguise, but cost me like a literal arm and a leg to afford. So if you guys do want to donate anything to me, I would really appreciate that, because this has put me out of pocket massively, and I just never expected, obviously, a flying bit of wood to take me out of the game after I already had to do dental stuff in 1 month. Like, it's already expensive enough as it is. Either way, obviously, I don't care if you can't donate. Just watching this video is more than enough support, and I really wanted to update those who had been waiting on this video for a while. I really wanted to include some of the Death Devil arc, and I have recorded a bunch of it already. So what I'm planning to do is next weekend, or next, you know, like Monday or something like that, whenever I get it actually done, is release the Death Devil arc here up on YouTube. Obviously, it's not finished yet, but I shouldn't get into it too much here because I don't want to spoil those who haven't read it or don't know what's going on and stuff. Either way, back to the video. I just wanted to quickly update you all on kind of everything that had happened over the past few weeks and why I'd been slowed down a little bit here. Inside of the control center building, public safety staff watched the two girls randomly walk towards the facility. After some initial hesitation, the dude is given the go-ahead to shoot them. Asa, however, manages to hijack the turrets before he can, without even needing to touch them. Femi explains that Asa now owns the turrets due to her using her combined funds instead of a contract that she wrote previously to take control of the complex's weapon facility. Fractions of a second later, Asa turns her college-funded turrets on the facility, completely and utterly destroying the entrance. Stoked with how easy it was to get these weapons, Yoru says it's a great thing Asa is so naive. This is obviously because war's powers have been enhanced due to the growing fear of war, and now she can turn things into weapons without really even needing to touch them. The facility staff are then informed of the break-in. Two girls are inside of the facility, dressed as high school girls. They need to arm themselves immediately and brace for an attack or instructions from a team leader. Staring at the security monitor, one of these sweaty nerds recognizes Asa as a member of the Chainsaw Man Church. Back over with the girls, Femi informs Asa that the upcoming weapons facility wasn't a part of the contract that she doctored up, so she'll have to engage them personally. Yelling back that she's still missing her freaking arm, Asa tells Femi to fight them instead. Femi explains though that she's their last resort, the trump card, before quickly getting Asa to stop from entering the guard's line of sight. She tells Asa that this mission is still life or death, and that any mistake could be fatal. Understanding this, our girl walks out, only to fall flat on her face in front of a bunch of armed guards. With everyone overreacting to the high school girl devils, Femi whips out another of her devil pawns while remarking that Asa is indeed a klutz. Unleashing hell, the public safety members open fire on the girls. Dropping her devil effigy to the floor in time, this demonic bird-like devil emerges. Femi orders it to kill every member, but all it does is disarm them and tear their clothing off, leaving them naked and afraid. Throwing up their arms, the public safety guards immediately surrender. Annoyed, Femi asks the devil why it spared the men, to which it screeches back complete jargon. Asa asks why she didn't use the effigy earlier, but Femi explains that aside from some secret restrictions, the devil she starves can't attain their full power whilst under her control. From below, the public safety member who announced the surrender then tries to assault Asa. Dipping her head down though, Asa comfortably parries his fist before letting Yoru take control and deliver a kick strong enough to knock him to the ground. A door nearby then opens, only to reveal Haruka, Seigi and Nobana. Seeing them, the guillotine devil screams at them, scaring Nobana, who screams herself. Hilariously, Haruka also believes that Femi showed up for them and orders the others to get behind him. Not wanting her to help him, he screams out that their families' lives have been ruined thanks to her machinations. It had gotten to the extent that he and his fellow club members were now placed on the country's most wanted list. Making up his own mind to be an independent white male now, he rescinds both girls' memberships to the Devil Hunter Club. Unconcerned for their asses though, Asa lets them know that the two of them are not here to rescue the Devil Hunter Club members, but rather Chainsaw Man. Suddenly stunned after hearing his goat's name and realizing that he can finally meet his idol, Haruka decides to tag along with the group. Obviously, the other Devil Hunter Club members join as well, since by themselves they're kinda cooked. Moments later, and Nobana, thinking that they found a possible exit, goes through a door, only to find a room filled with pseudo chainsaw men. Since Bro immediately starts freaking out, everyone is alerted to his predicaments. The first to speak up though is the man overseeing Denji's torture, who just happens to be there. He found it odd how up until yesterday, people were living ordinary lives. He thinks it's the strangest thing. People turn into pseudo chainsaw men out of nowhere. Apparently, a few theories have been floating around, like it depends on how much the individual worshipped Chainsaw Man, or that there were devils already among the church's ranks. He asks the Devil Hunter Club members how the heads weren't affected, yet his wife, one of the people now in the cell, was. His wife was a kind woman who packed his lunch every day, and yet she transformed, whilst his irritating old muppet of a neighbour didn't. Believing it to be unfair since he hasn't done anything wrong, he wonders if no god truly exists. Calling Bro out on his supposed holiness, Asa asks him if he's sure that's true, to which he replies that he did have an affair, but downplays it, saying it only lasted 6 months. Transposing forms, Yoru emerges to let them know that this piece of crap is only wasting time. Flicking around in an instant, she then kicks Femi out of the way, saving her from a strike that suddenly tore through the wall behind them. The Nail Fiend, who was, obviously partnered up with the Katana Man on the Chainsaw Man church raid, also appears, attempting to assassinate Femi. Again though, Yoru lands a hefty kick to her dome, pushing her out of harm's way. Standing there, the Fiend cracks up laughing and mocks Yoru, telling her to be more gentle, though she responds that it should try only having one freaking arm. Yoru asks Femi if she can use her powers again, but her lack of answer is more than enough to tell her no. Pointing his sword at Asa, Katana Man recognizes her. She was in the newspaper. They call her the Devil Fighting High School Girl, and a poem collection she wrote in class is on sale next month. His partner, the Nail Fiend, asks if he's a fan of her, which he staunchly denies, and claims that the worship of Chainsaw Man's religion is why the world is currently the way it is. It's just like his granddaddy always said, idiots and religion make the worst freaking combination. Which is a crazy take, and I guarantee you the bots on YouTube don't agree with that. Like, every bot comments is about Jesus being the loving way, even though they've got some hot-ass female on their profile picture. Either way, and over Bro's little freaking tirade, now comments how they're about to fall asleep here, only for Katana Man to retort that he'd view them as one of the bad guys too, if they keep up their mockery. Joking back, the Nail Fiend makes a jab at Katana Man's position of being a former mobster, questioning if that made him a bad person. Retorting that the Yakuza are not bad guys, Katana Man lets us all know that they're actually heroes protecting Japan from the shadows, which, not gonna lie, I never knew, so thank you King, thank you for that one. Over their freaking muppetistic fit at this point, their overseeing agent orders the two to cut the chatter and kill the others quickly. Thinking quick on her feet, Asa tells Katana Man that they're here to fight Chainsaw Man, confusing both him and Haruka. On top of that, she lets him know that she can even take him to Chainsaw Man, revealing to him that not only was he here, he was in fact guarding him all along. The unnamed Special Division 7 agent tries to order both Katana Man and the Nail Fiend to obey him, using their dreams of restoring the Yakuza family and opening a successful business as leverage. With the duo kinda over it now, due to disliking how many kids they've had to kill recently. Obviously check out my Chainsaw Man Church arc video if you want an update on that one there, which was wild, I love it. And for the simple fact that Katana Man lives to kill Chainsaw Man, they ignore his orders. The agent sighs and admits that his wife was right about how they should have never joined the Special Division. Katana immediately lashes out, destroying the wall behind him. Having gapped it, the higher up admits he'd lose here, so instead he'll send someone else to face them while they go to see Chainsaw Man. Turning to Katana, Yoru asks if all public safety agents are like this coward. Not replying, Katana tells the dumbass high schooler to take him to the piece of crap that is Chainsaw Man, and he'll let her live then. Haruka, over in the corner by himself, has a mental freaking breakdown about how she decided to fight Chainsaw Man, thinking the idea completely stupid. Offended that the rat found her way of thinking stupid, Yoru repeats a similar statement to Katana in that her heart's sole reason for beating is to fight Chainsaw Man. Elsewhere in the facility, Denji's surgeons wrap up their duties, and upon hearing that there are intruders in the facility, decide to take a break. Fractions of a second later though, Asa and the crew blow through the door and threaten the surgeons to stand aside, otherwise they'll die. Fami then tells the group that Chainsaw Man should probably be around here somewhere. Having heard this though, one of the surgeons point to the boxes that were sent flying, revealing Denji has been fully dismembered. Annoyed because he went through the work of putting all of the parts in selected containers, the surgeon demands an apology, to which only Nobana complies. Kicking over one of the boxes to reveal a hand, Yoru points to the group before ordering them to assemble Chainsaw Man back for her. Over then, what I assume is probably a very merry few minutes, the girls and public safety defectors help assemble Denji back together. Nobana manages to find his heart and starts freaking out. The surgeon, who was still in the room and noticing the others just chilling there, asks why they aren't helping. Yoru points out her injury, whilst Katana Man tells him that chores are just for kids. Back over with the repair crew, the number one yapper, Haruka, freaks out in joy as he holds his idol's guts. Seigi, having found his bro's dong, asks about if he should put it back too. Katana Man, wanting revenge for his nuts being absolutely destroyed way back in his arc, jokes about shoving it up Denji's own ass, but Yoru shuts him down, demanding every piece is put back in its proper place. She needs Chainsaw Man in its perfect condition for their fights. Anything else will make it meaningless. Collapsing to the floor though, our resident child of the group, Nobana, screams out in horror having found Denji's dome. Not knowing who his human form was, Haruka rushes over, wanting to see his idol's identity. Staring at it, he confusedly asks the surgeon if it's really Chainsaw Man's head, to which it's confirmed. Yoru, not caring at all about what his face looks like, demands they attach it back already. Slowly though, Haruka turns to Asa, flipping the box to reveal Denji's cooked face. He wonders if this wasn't her boyfriend? Overtaking Yoru's personality, Asa stands there, completely shocked, unable to say anything. Suddenly though, the door to the room blows open and the same dude from earlier walks on in. Ordering the person who came with him to kill them all, Quan Chi, with her blades at the ready, agrees. The Nail Fiend immediately attempts to buy some time with Quan Chi by asking her questions regarding her beauty, like the specific brand of shampoo she uses. Simultaneous to this, Katana, Nail, and Yoru get ready to engage. The Nail Fiend launches a set of nails at the crossbow hybrid, but their attack is easily blocked. Second in and ready to attack, Katana Man is immediately decapitated by Quan Chi. Freaking out over what's going on, Haruka accidentally drops Denji, causing his head to roll about the room. Grabbing a scalpel from the floor, Yoru uses her ability to morph it into a sword. Rushing at the hybrid, both Yoru and Nail attack her with a barrage of hits. However, Quan Chi blocks them all before kicking Yoru into a wall. Darting in, our Chinese demon lands a critical blow to the gut of the Nail Fiend. Blood splatters across Nobana's face, and he screams in terror, knowing he's next on the list. Quan Chi then attempts to strike him down, but the moment she does, notices the young man holding up Denji's face. Wondering what the change in Quan Chi is all about, the public safety officer yells at her to continue with the attack, but she reveals that she was warned by an old friend to never make an enemy out of this cretin. I can't remember if this was something that happened between Kishibe and Quan Chi on screen or off screen, but surely someone down below can let us know. Anyways, and back with the fight, physically breaking down over the fact that none of the devils seem to do what they're told when he tells them to do something, he reminds the hybrid that her lovers' bodies are under custody of public safety. They can always get rid of them rather than give them back if she doesn't listen. Calming himself back down and regaining composure, the official goes to say one more thing about how women are ass, but out of freaking nowhere, his wife turned Chainsaw Devil tackles him from behind. I love how bro never realized his wife was in love with another man, instead thinking this entire situation was just a bad series of events. Gotta love how cooked this series can be at times. Anyways, and back to it, the Nail Fiend can't physically believe how Katana Man destroyed the cell containing her earlier, only for her to drop in and then start eating her husband. Unconcerned with this, Quan Chi admits defeat and asks to be killed here, saying she'll regenerate like Chainsaw Man at a later date. The surgeons, likely tired of having to deal with the danger that public safety provides, pretend to not hear a thing about this. Picking up her scalpel sword, Yoru agrees to taking her out, however asks first if Chainsaw Man is stronger than her. Without hesitation, she answers that he's weaker, but far more feared. Moments later, Yoru strikes her down. However, I must say it's so freaking brutal that not even Tatsuki wanted to draw it, hence why, we didn't get a panel of it. A bit later on, and channel surfing TV, Haruka notices that none of the channels are talking about his group's breakout. Instead, they're reporting on an idol named Koma Komagawa, who supposedly married an already married baseball star, but it's revealed that these accusations of infidelity and home wrecking were fabricated by a tabloid that ran a doctored image. Hearing this, Nobana expresses relief, stating he's a fan of Koma himself. I don't know what the importance of this conversation is, but either way. Unable to get his mind straight, Haruka exclaims that he must be dreaming, despite the fact that millions of people are transforming into devils thanks to the Chainsaw Man Church, wars are breaking out, and that they, a group of high schoolers who were once considered the top of the nation's most wanted list, were able to escape scot-free. Not a single person is even talking about them now. Asa pipes up and says that nobody really cares about her anymore, despite how she lost an arm and was once the most popular devil hunter around. Telling her she's missing the initial point, Haruka just says that Denji being Chainsaw Man doesn't feel real at all. Not concerned with that though, Asa complains about how freaking long Katana Man is taking in the bathroom. Everyone is obviously waiting for a turn after all. Telling the high schooler to not look at her, she asks if this is Fami's hideout. If it is, then she should take her complaints up with her. Turning over to her fellow horseman, she goes to ask something, but freezes as she watches her devouring a plate of spaghetti among other food with her hands. The Nail Fiend, who's, watching this too, wonders aloud if Fami's naturally skinny, only for Denji to wake up and immediately ask where he is. Noticing Nobana and Haruka there as well, he then asks where he is again, only for the Nail Fiend to comment that he's more their type when he's asleep, and demands he goes back to sleep. Obviously not going back to bed, Denji asks Asa about her arm, to which she answers by saying Yoshida had cut it off. Confused and wanting more info, he asks why, but she isn't even sure herself, which is crazy. Like 100% she knows why and it's just too awkward to spill the beans, and it's typical Asa. He then wonders if he's dreaming, only for Katana Man to finally get his revenge over 100 chapters later and stomps on a man's balls, bringing him right back to reality. With Denji screaming out in pain on the floor, a reformed Yakuza explains that he returned both of his nuts to their rightful ballsack, just so he could ring the gong of revenge with his own damn foot. Grabbing his wrist, ready to transform, he then demands Denji turn into Chainsaw Man as it's time for round 3. The pain makes Denji realize this isn't a dream, only for Asa and Haruka to explain to Katana Man that they need Denji to explain things to them first. Yodo, on the other hand, doesn't want that, instantly takes over the body of Asa and kicks Denji in the nuts as well. Leaning down over his body, she stares into his eyes and states that she doesn't need his human form, so Chainsaw Man should wake up already. Shaking in the corner of the room, Nobana states that he doesn't feel safe, but Haruka, who's probably feeling the same way, asks where else they'd even go right now. Despite his displeasure of getting kicked in the jewels by Yoru and Katana Man, Denji demands the group tell him where Nayuta is. Yoru obviously doesn't know who she is and leans down, attempting to pull Denji's ripcord to wake him up. Grabbing her arm, Denji stops Yoru from doing so, but lets her know he'll fight her as much as she wants as long as he knows that Nayuta is safe. From here, the group journey back to the site of Denji's home, now reduced to nothing more but charred remains. It's obviously pretty sad. In the last arc, Denji was knocked out towards the end of the fight, so he probably has no idea what ended up happening to Nayuta. And obviously at this point, we don't technically have anything confirmed, but Haruka lets Denji know that if Nayuta isn't here, then there's nothing else they can do to help. Denji doesn't respond. Instead, he silently searches through the rubble. Yoru tries to snap him back to reality. The last time he saw Nayuta was when she was surrounded by armed adults, so it's likely she's dead now. Not listening to her and likely going through some stages of denial, Denji refuses to believe this and continues searching. Walking over and grabbing his hand, Asa draws a comparison to how he was able to understand her pain when he was saving her. She empathizes with him, that she too understands how he feels and vows to do whatever she can to help him. Frustrated, Denji tells Asa that she really makes no sense. First, she kicks him in the nuts, now she's being nice to him. Obviously this is because Denji has no idea that she can transpond between personalities, bringing Asa and Yoru forward and back, which makes me question as well, is these scars only something that we see because we need an obvious difference as a reader to know that we're now seeing Yoru speak or Yoru listen to something instead of Asa listen to something. Anyways, and flustered herself, Asa tries assuring him that once they fight, he can finally return to having a normal life. Not interested, Denji turns down Asa's offer, much to her confusion. He lets her know that transforming into Chainsaw Man will only bring him pain and suffering, and that his main goal now is to find Naota. Turning to Fami for help, she suggests that the reason Denji isn't in the mood to fight is due to him being hungry. Hunger always makes one negative. Asa offers to get Denji any type of food he wants, to which he says maybe sushi will help. Disgusted with the idea, Asa refuses to buy him sushi due to disliking the dish herself. In response, Katana calls her a biatch for hating on the food he also wants. Not having gotten anywhere with this, Denji then resumes rummaging through the burnt remains of his apartment, leaving Asa to just gaze at him in frustration. Okay, just a quick warning that from here on out, things get a little messed up to say the least. I've already blurred a bunch of panels probably throughout the video and a bunch more from this point onwards, just because YouTube hates on Chainsaw Man content and loves to restrict it in the first place. So that should help with it, but if you haven't read this section of the story already, what's about to come is honestly sickening. Like, that's all I should say. Tatsuki needs to be locked away and put in a freaking psych ward. So keep your mental health in check and only continue on if you're having a good day and everything, because if you're having a bad day, this just might amplify bad things, and that's the last thing I want from anyone who, watches my content. That being said though, if you also want to leave a like, I'd really appreciate that, as making these videos takes ages, and subscribe if you aren't around here. Either way, and later on now, as the group walks to a train, Denji spots another pseudo Chainsaw Man corpse on the ground. Haruka explains to him that a train station attendant will clean it up, and that these corpses appearing is just to be expected at this point. Now on the train, Fami lists off multiple sushi restaurants they could go to, but because the best places are either burned to the ground or have no remaining chefs in them, the group settles on a budget restaurant, so Sushi, the place to die for. Sitting opposite a mother with an injured eye and her son on the train, Denji asks Asa to remind him why she's out to fight him now. She answers that if she can fight him and win, he'll be saved, but Denji just guesses she's still brainwashed by the church. She denies it immediately, and while flustered, tells Fami to explain the ordeal to him. Dropping some bombs of knowledge, Fami relays that Denji's heart's power is what makes him Chainsaw Man. That's the power of a contract. The terms of his contract require him to live normally. If he breaks the contract, then the real owner, Chainsaw Man, will emerge. If they defeat the real Chainsaw Man and transplant a new heart into Denji, he'd become an ordinary human again. Denji asks Fami how she knows about all of the specifics behind his contract, before asking Asa if she also believes her. Asa sticks up for Fami. She agrees the girl's done some bad in the past, but insists that her heart's in the right place, and that they're just trying to help. She tries to get Fami to agree with her, but Fami's stomach grumbles, causing all of the others to just stare at her. Still not fully on board, Denji asks Asa what she means by a normal life. She explains that what she means by a normal life is that he can go back to school, have a home, and hopefully Naota would be able to come home too. She's not sure where she is, but guesses the police are keeping her safe and just isn't sure how to contact him now that their house is burned down. She says everything will go back to normal, but this only unsettles Denji. He asks her if she's ever eaten toilet paper, poop paper, good old TP baby. Back in the day, he used to eat it when he was extremely hungry, but since he doesn't go hungry anymore, he stopped eating TP. I love how dudes just random analogies. He asks Asa if she understands what he's saying, but she mistakes his story for a metaphor that only confuses her. Still moping, Denji tells her that he cannot go back to a normal life, but Asa vows him that she will give him his normal life back and save him no matter what. I love the contradiction from Asa there, immediately after Denji's like, I can't go back to this life of eating toilet paper in the past, Asa. She's like, nah, don't worry man, I'm gonna give you that life back, don't worry, we'll get there. Smoking on his Benson and Hedges rich, Katana Man mocks the kids, calling them girls. He knows his granddaddy would turn in his grave if he ever tried to avenge his death. Snapping at him, Asa sticks up for Denji, reminding the ex-Yakuza that Denji's hungry and Naota is currently missing. She tells him to quit smoking as well on the train, and he surprisingly complies by dropping the cigarette in front of her to the floor and stomping it out. Since he's an eternal degenerate though, he tells his fellow one that he knows just the place that would perk up any man in one shot. The legendary Soapland. That's where they have to go now. In a twist not even Tatsuki saw coming, Katana reveals that the brothel he's suggesting they go to is one that he actually owns. Physically disgusted with this idea, Asa tries to get Denji to agree with her that that's the last thing he needs, but to her shock and horror, he's surprisingly considering it. He remarks that, he hasn't beaten the chicken, poached the egg, stretched the eagle, or made a soup in a while. Shocked and disgusted with this, Asa asks what the hell he's on. Losing his mind, bro just starts yapping. He can't tell if he's just this depressed because of the lack of gelking. Unable to even understand how dude got to this point in life, Asa just asks how he could be thinking about socks at a time like this, but he answers by drawing a comparison that it's as important to guys as eating and sleeping. He looks at the other boys for affirmation, but they all just stay silent. This is his war. Absolutely over the despicable, shameless pig that he is, Asa reminds him of his mission to save Naota, his little sister. Denji knows it. It's not like he just forgets, it's more physically. In his eyes, it's better to take care of the socks dry first for, scientific reasons. Arriving at what remains of the brothel though, Katana Man is distraught that it's burnt down. To make matters worse, it's literally started raining on their parade. I can't lie, I feel like Tatsuki just loves to fug with us for a chapter or two. We'd be going through this depresso espresso with Denji, then all of a sudden, dude's just thinking with his sack. As the rain soaks them to the core, Denji once again collapses to the ground and breaks down, mad at himself that he can't get his priorities straight. He admits that the main thing that caused him to return to being Chainsaw Man was the prospect of getting a harem of women. Seeing the funny side, Nobana half-heartedly laughs at him, but Denji snaps back that it's not funny. It's all his freaking dong's fault, it ruins everything around him. Watching him then pound the ground with his fist out of frustration, Yoru sees an opening. Quickly taking control of Asa, she offers to end all issues and chop the third leg from his body. Well, this is happening now, I guess. In an alleyway with Denji, Yoru finds a piece of trash on the ground and transforms it into a knife. Turning to him, she tells him to whip it out then. What the hell, what am I reading now? Tatsuki, help. Denji's still a little surprised by her offer to slice off his ding-dong, but she asks him again if he wants to be rid of his sex drive or not. After being ordered to take off his pants, Denji freaks out and reneges on his deal, before pushing Yoru's knife out of her hand. She responds by shoving her hand down his pants, intending on crushing his, well, yeah. The act of doing so though, however, has woken in a memory in Yoru's subconsciousness, the kiss she gave him as Asa at his old place. Confused, she gives him another kiss just to confirm it, and eventually, the two of them start making out. Okay, just for YouTube's sake and my own mental health, I'm going to stop here. YouTube will probably murk my channel if I mention what happens, so you can just read between the lines here. Taking over the shocked Asa's body, Yoru washes the glippity-glop, let's say, off her hand. Denji starts to ask Yoru why she kissed him, only for Yoru to interrupt and answer that she kissed him only because it felt good, so he shouldn't get cocky. Gazing at him, his lips and goofy-ass face, she gives him another kiss. Confused, he asks whether or not she does like him, however, she answers that she doesn't like him, but the other one does. It's her feelings that flowed into her. Stoked with life for that one moment, bro looks happily into the distance. Walking off, Yoru tells him she's hungry. Once he eats some sushi and perks up, then he needs to prepare for war. Blitzed emotionally, mentally, literally all of the above, Denji sits alone in the alley for a bit, going over what the hell just happened. Inside of Asa's own world, she charges Yoru down, purposefully shoving her against a wall. The war devil pleads for her to stop, but she just demands to know why she kissed Denji. Yoru answers that she only kissed him because she could sense that they'd kissed before, and she was only confirming her suspicions. She asks Asa if it felt good, only for Asa to raise her fist and punch her in the face. Yoru asks her why she's doing this if she likes Chainsaw Man. Shouldn't she be happy? Regaining control of her own body, she yells at Yoru that Denji probably thinks she's a sluzzer now thanks to her cretinous ex. Holding back tears, she states she's too hungry to deal with this all right now. Back on the train, Denji now sits between Fami and Haruka, while Asa sulks in a nearby seat. A little while later, the group finally arrives at Fami's earlier recommendation, Sushi, Death by Sushi. Entering the establishment, the Muppets are greeted by a member of Sushi's staff, who enthusiastically takes them to their seats. Overlooking a crowd of fellow diners, Denji wonders if they are also fellow gooners who have been the recipient of a cheeky handy. He talks to Pochita, telling him that although he's gone through some awful things recently, he however just got beaten off and now he's eating piles of sushi. He remarks that it didn't feel as good physically as when he does it himself, but it made his heart feel real nice. Looking blankly ahead like the Muppet he is, he wonders if Asa is unhappy or happy at this moment. Still obviously embarrassed about before though, Asa lies and asks Fami if she could just wait outside. Fami, chowing down on another mouthful, just mumbles out some unintelligible nonsense. Haruka asks the group if it's really okay for them to eat without a Koku or the Nail Fiend, since both of them are outside guarding the building. He then turns to Nobana and asks if they're even eating any sushi. Turns out the boy doesn't actually want to be stuck with a bill, so he isn't eating any sushi, to which Haruka calls him freaking weird for. Nobana protests and says that Asa is the weirdest of them all. Her arm is missing and she's acting like nothing is wrong. If he lost an arm, bro admits he'd be bawling his eyes out for weeks. Randomly though, another man then joins the group at the table, saying Asa's situation is just like an animal's. Turns out it's no one other than Bareem, who elaborates that animals do not get sad, they simply adapt to a lost limb for the sake of survival. He then rhetorically questions if devils are supposed to feel sadness either. Haruka, noticing who it is, shouts out to the others, catching Denji's attention. Quickly getting up, he attempts to stab him with a pair of chopsticks, but before the strike lands, Bareem reveals he can take Denji to Naota if he listens to him. After Denji then takes a seat beside him, Bareem tries to go on a tangent about how to properly eat sushi, but Denji cuts him off, angrily demanding he tell him where Naota is. Continuing, Bareem reveals that public safety is after the both of them, and that they are currently stationed around the building. As soon as they step outside, they will both be murked. If Denji wants to know where Naota is, he has to save him from that fate. Desperate to save his little sister, he asks what he has to do to help. Whipping a plate forward, for now, Bareem just wants him to eat some tamago nigiri with him. I just want to warn you all again that from this point it gets insanely twisted. I don't mean to spoil anything now obviously, so just be aware and always think about your own mental state before continuing. Sounds crazy giving that warning in a shonen, but this is not the first time we've done it, and it's Tatsuki Fujimoto, the twisted plot twister. Bareem then starts his routine, stating that in order to fully enjoy sushi, one goes from lighter toppings to richer ones. Denji responds by telling him to go to hell, but Bareem reminds him that should he disobey, he can't see Naota. Reluctantly, he smashes the tamago nigiri into his face, pulverizing it. Bareem then presents him with squid sushi, which Denji scarfs down, though his manners leave his fellow hybrid annoyed. Sending the entire bench's plates and whatnot in Bareem's direction out of frustration, Denji calms himself back down and asks if simply killing the public safety members outside will be enough for him to see his sister. Bareem explains that, as tempting as it is, public safety and the remnants of the Chainsaw Man Church for that matter won't kill him. They just want a tinsy bit of Chainsaw Man's power. Currently, Denji's form is incomplete. What they want is a Chainsaw Man with the power to erase devil concepts from existence itself. Denji, entirely unaware of this power, asks him how that makes any sense. Chainsaws only chop trees down after all. Which, I just have to question, didn't he know his powers work this way and that's why he gobbled Makima back? Or is he just playing dumb here? I swear that was like the main reason why. Anyways, Bareem hypothesizes that chainsaws might have had other uses before those said uses were erased as well, leaving tree cutting as the only one that exists in memory. After all, they wouldn't have a clue if it did or didn't happen unless specific records were recorded beforehand. Giving Denji some lean tuna sushi now, he states that two factors are required to summon the Chainsaw Devil: everyone's fear as well as his unhappiness. Gleefully, he expresses how the former was impossible due to his superhero status, but thanks to the Fire Devil, he's now on a similar level to fear, aging, or sickness. Next up on Bareem's 25-course lunch for Denji, he announces that it's the fatty tuna. Screaming out, he demands that the head chef send it down the belt. Over the next few moments, the normally timid atmosphere turns into one that would violate anyone's nightmares. One by one, customers of Sushi, including Denji's party, all react in shock, repulsion, and confusion. Getting up, both Asa and Haruka stumble back. Turning his own head, Denji sees that the fatty tuna Bareem had ordered him was indeed his little sister's severed head. I swear, Tatsuki just hates Denji. The roller coaster of emotions up to this point are insane. Dude was getting it jorked an hour ago and now it's just complete hell. Also leave a like for my sanity, guys. I had to go and look at those images unblurred on ends for days just while I was editing this. Unable to subvert his gaze, all Denji can do is stare at his little sister and mumble out her name. Grabbing some more sushi from the conveyor, Bareem coldly apologized, stating that although what he did was cruel, he did it in order to save the world.
Once the spirit is broken and enough pain has been inflicted, only when the human has lost all hope will it be transferred to the soul extraction chamber.
Instantly grabbing the fall by his neck, Denji's stomach bursts open and his intestinal leash wraps itself around our dude's neck. Clenching his fist into a ball, Denji, now partially transformed into the true Chainsaw Man, rips Bream's head from his shoulders. Unable to do anything, Asura and Yoru both watch in awe as he finishes his transformation into Chainsaw Man. Immediately looking up to see that people are fleeing the room, Chainsaw Man's attention is drawn elsewhere. On a nearby rooftop, a man is heard giving orders to several teams of multiple public safety divisions, notifying them of their target's updated look. He tells the group, consisting of 5 Fangs, that the result of their mission today determines their fates. Should they be successful in either killing or immobilizing the Black Chainsaw Man, then they'll become protected under public safety. If not, then they'll be put down as useless devils, just like any other failed project. Survive though, and he promises them that he'll personally treat them to as much booze and sushi as they want. Walking forwards, he then commences the first mission for the newly formed Special Division 5. As Special Division 5 begin to merrily walk their way out of the building, the member with the crocodile head orders her other half to jump. Leaping off the ground, what I'm guessing is the crocodile fiend watches the Chainsaw Devil tear through her entire group. The crocodile fiend immediately begins to celebrate avoiding the attack, only to realise that she too lost her head. Having watched all of this carnage take place, the same man from before orders Special Division 6 to commence their own operation. Moments later, explosives directly under Pochita are set off, causing him to fall to the ground level of the building. The Public Safety Division 6 members then rush forth with the Centipede Devil encircling and capturing him first. Following up, the remaining members all slice and cut at the bricked up devil. Reporting back to Public Safety, the man from before confirms that the Chainsaw Devil is bleeding. Bleeding has been confirmed. Seeing the Centipede get absolutely violated though, he turns back and orders the Pillbug Fiend to attack. However, the Fiend along with the official are sliced in two fractions of a second later. Sending his appendage forth, the Chainsaw Devil, one by one, skewers all of the attacking devils. Choosing his first victim, Pochita then begins to chow down on the Ear Devil. It's then shown that Public Safety is observing the entire battle through their cameras, recording which specific devils Pochita is feasting on. Back at Sushi, Katana Man asks Yoru where Chainsaw Man is gone, but she says he just disappeared. Not catching what she said, he asks her to repeat herself. Telling him something disappeared, Yoru moves her hand up and feels the side of her face. Everyone's ears have suddenly vanished. Turns out it's not just human ears, but all over the globe it's shown people and animals alike have all randomly lost the use of their ears. In a public safety stronghold, a representative alerts a group of seated men that the erased devil was the Ear Devil. Since they don't have ears though, the men don't react. Leaning in, she responds by asking them to confirm whether or not they've heard of ears before. Their lack of response confirms the representative's suspicions, who immediately contacts HQ and commences Team C's operation. Team C, by the way, was one of the public safety teams that was in charge of, killing Makima on the train there, or at least I think they were way back at the start of the series. 3 public safety members are then shown standing in front of a restroom. Pulling out some scissors, each of them cut off the tip of the index finger. Uttering out cervical spine, neck and vertebrae, they use the cut fingers to paint the word HIT on the restroom mirrors. Elsewhere, a devil in hell is then shown reading the message aloud. Sighing, they lift their fist near a projected mirror. Back on Earth, Pochita, now attempting to consume the next devil head, is suddenly interrupted by a giant fist striking them from above. Immediately retaliating though, Pochita thrusts his saws out, quickly slicing off 2 of the devil's fingers. Going to escape, he is however interrupted by Yoshida, who uses his octopus devil to restrain him. The devil in hell commends Yoshida's efforts, before he then also constricts Pochita enough to force him to spit out the devil's head, restoring everyone's ears globally in the process. Elsewhere, several Japanese politicians are gathered together in a courtyard, including the current Prime Minister of Japan, Kentaro Ishita. Reading through a transcript, he asks for confirmation about whether the Ear Devil's erasure actually occurred. Hidaji Sakagami, the Minister of Communication and Internal Affairs, confirms this. Shintoma, the Minister of Defense, asks the Public Safety Devil Hunters representative how they can use this power of erasure for good. The official, who turns out to be no one other than Mifune, explains how humans can evolve using these powers by erasing anything that stands in the path of progress. When asked for clarification, she explains that Public Safety currently has a positive relationship with no one other than the Aging Devil, one of the primal fears. the devil has no attachment to life, and depending on the contractual terms, they're willing to be erased by Chainsaw Man. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yuki Tomoda, or Yuki Tsunoda I should say, drifting up in his F1 car, asks about the possible negative effects that erasing aging could bring, though Fumiko hand-waves these concerns by saying how the absence of ears didn't suddenly erase the existence of ear-related paraphernalia like cell phones or radios. The secretary finds this whole thing a little bit just messy, to which Fumiko agrees. She says that's exactly why they're keeping Chainsaw Man's chaos under control. Interested, Toma asks what exactly the Aging Devil's terms to accept the offer are. In an insane reveal, like this is Tatsuki levels of thuggery here, Fumiko tells him the Aging Devil wants 10,000 Japanese citizens under the age of 9 years old to be executed in front of a mirror. Most of the men are understandably startled by this, but as Fumiko tries to pressure them into agreeing with the terms, the former Minister of Finance, Tadashi Hasegawa, gives the plan the go-ahead. He explains his grandson is rounding up children orphaned by devil attacks as they speak. He then commands Miki Takanashi, the Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, to make up the rest of the numbers by granting citizenship to any refugee children his agents could find. Which is actually maniacal, giving these foreigners citizenship in order to only complete the devil's contract. Usually they just get deported. Sweating balls over this decision, Takanashi goes to protest. However, Hasegawa brings up how the dude has 4 children of his own. Knowing that the oldie was threatening his family's lives, the Minister of Industry quickly relents. Turning back to public safety, Hasegawa tells Fumiko that the children will be assembled within 48 hours, and she needs to relay it up the chain immediately. Whipping out her phone, she goes to call them, however, starts to sweat as she realizes something is off. Turns out, her mouth, along with the mouths of every other person and creature on the globe, have now completely vanished. Elsewhere, and still wreaking havoc across the city, it's revealed that not only has the Chainsaw Devil erased the concept of mouths, but he has also erased the concepts of snow, octopussy, and bitterness. Can't comprehend the fact that octopussy no longer exists, saddest day of my freaking life so far. Nearby though, a passerby turns unknowingly around the corner into the alleyway that Pochita is standing in. Startled, he rushes away, not being able to scream due to his mouth having vanished, but alerting others who notice him running, who also try to flee the scene. Several anti-Chainsaw Man protesters, probably had their wives stolen away, try to rush Pochita, but, well, yeah, obliterates them in an instant, causing the rest to flee. The only man shown not running the other way is Katana Man, who begins to transform. In another location though, another sacrifice is being made, calling forth the Aging Devil. Moments later, 2 arms emerge from glass-like windows on either side of Pochita. Darting down from above herself, Yoru, in combination with Katana and Aging, all attack Chainsaw Man simultaneously. Flashing away from this, and over in hell, it's showing that the Aging Devil has lost both of her hands, while on Earth, Katana lost both his arms as well as his head. His body collapses onto Yoru, who, not wanting to be held down by the garbage, kicks it out of the way and stands up. Turns out that she also lost her one remaining arm in the fight, however, she continues to walk down Chainsaw Man. Watching the girl fall to her knees in front of him, the Chainsaw Devil approaches and looks down on his lesser devil. Getting ready to enact something, Yoru throws her head up and gazes directly into the soul of Chainsaw Man. Falling into a flashback, Yoru is shown sitting in a bathtub, reaching for a bar of soap. Gliding into her hand, it transforms into a sword. She then shows her weapon off to Asa, who obviously isn't surprised. She explains how when she turned her apartment into a weapon, she could do so without stating its name. It's a sign that they are growing stronger, but it still isn't enough to stop Chainsaw Man. Due to the pseudo-Chainsaw Men wreaking havoc across the globe, the Chainsaw Devil only grows stronger alongside the fear of war, and as of such, she cannot surpass him. Asa suggests that Yoru buries the hatchet, as not only is everyone remembering how horrifying war is, she also knows defeating Denji won't make her happy. Yoru explains that it isn't just a matter of pride for her, she wants to rescue the comrades she once had, which he swallowed. Asa asks if she has a way to achieve this goal, to which she confirms she has 2. There are currently 2 weapons she could make, ones that are much more powerful and feared than Asa's. Asa asks why not just use these weapons instead of burning through her college savings and rendering her homeless, but Yoru tells her to not compare them to such pathetic matters. It's more that turning those 2 into weapons would be counterintuitive to saving her comrades. Obviously, these comrades are the other 4 horsemen, or at least that's how I'm seeing it all play out. Annoyed though, she exclaims that she'll do anything to prove she's a more fearsome devil than he is. Back in the present, Yoru wonders if she'd really be willing for it. Would she turn her own children into weapons for the sake of her desire? Realizing she indeed would, Yoru extends her non-existent arms and calls upon both of her children, the gun and tank devils, to come to their mother. Across the world in the Gulf of Mexico at the Devil Containment Facility, we find one of the most secure doors on the globe. Fractions of a second later, the gun devil bursts out and starts heading for Japan. Then, over in Russia, the side of Mount Erebus explodes as Tank makes his escape. 0.001 seconds later, the children equip themselves to war, who use his gun to shoot the Chainsaw Devil, tearing his arm off in the process. Now, with two fully formed arms, one gun, one tank, Yoru mimics Makima's bang as she watches her foe start to fall. When the last shot landed, it caused the Mouth Devil to be regurgitated out of the Chainsaw Devil, giving every being the option to talk once more. Now able to speak, Yoru points her gun arm forth and bangs off another shot that Pochita just manages to block. The recoil, however, violates him, picking him up off the ground and sending him hurtling into a nearby building. Sensing Asa behind her, Yoru laments how both tank and gun devils were created out of war, and thus were her children as they fought for her. Asa asks once more if killing Black Chainsaw Man will really grant Denji an ordinary life, to which Yoru confirms that it's what Fami told them after all. Sensing something off, she asks if Yoru is truly okay with turning her kin into weapons. Glaring back at the human, Yoru basically tells her that children are the property of their parents. Leaping out from the crash and landing atop the same building, Pochita listens to Yoru from his vantage point. She screams out, asking him if he remembers her and if he's reminded of the pain that she once gave him. When no response is given, she snaps and asks him to fight her, though he flees. Landing somewhere nearby, Pochita approaches a volunteer blood drive member, scaring her off in the middle of her chant. Picking up the sign himself, he attempts to mimic her chanting, obviously in the hope that someone would give him some blood so he can heal. Back in the good old United States of cookery though, specifically Texas, ripped my Texans, Yoru uses the gun devil and one of its contracts to attack Chainsaw Man. Over the next 0.1 seconds, approximately 400,000 of the National Pistol Association of America's 3.5 million members lose their index fingers. If you are curious, by the way, it's exactly 11.4285% of the entire membership. In order to fire this attack, Yoru poses in the position of the Statue of Liberty and lowers her own index finger, cracking the statue's face. Onlookers in America react in horror as the top half of the Statue of Liberty crumbles away, revealing a devilish creature holding a rifle. Good God, Tatsuki, why are you so freaking artistically gifted? I love anything to do with like this man and his weapon creation, it's just so good. Yoru immediately commands the statue weapon to fire. In a display of utter destruction, the finger-shaped bullet crosses the world and hits Pochita directly, who's sent flying through building after building on a seemingly endless path. Witnessing the citywide destruction that she had wrought, Asa regains control of her body and realizes too late that Yoru is indeed a devil after all. She is evil. Yoru, on the other hand, can't help but hysterically laugh at the oblivion before her eyes. Inside of the destruction, Pochita lays there helpless, having been reduced to only a head and torso. Looking to his left, Pochita watches the aging devil approach and pour some blood into his mouth. The aging devil tells Pochita to eat their entire body, starting with its legs, then arms, lower half and so on, saving the head for last. In a crude twist, the devil explains how its contract dictates that children will die with every bite he takes from it. The aging devil deems this act to be romantic, asking Pochita if he understands the sentiment. In some Epstein level of messed up cookery, they tell Pochita to eat up, while reflecting a mirror depicting several children who are being rounded up by the Japanese government. What am I reading, bro? What is going on? Desperately trying to restart himself now, Pochita pulls his ripcord, but to no avail. He crawls over towards the aging devil, who seems delighted that they're about to be consumed, only to be left in shock as Pochita begins to beg for blood again. They question if he's stupid before holding him down in front of the war devil. Getting closer now, Yoru accuses them of trying to steal her glory, but Asa, seeing how close to death Pochita is, tries to get her other half to stand down. Demanding silence, she denies her request. However, if she can transform Pochita into a weapon, then they'll both get their wish, like Fami promised. Asa asks Yoru if she genuinely believes their plan would work, to which she confirms. In that moment, Asa regains control of her body, stunning her devil counterpart. calling her a complete idiot. Yoru pleads for her to give the body back and quit fearing her. She even promises to back off on Denji for the time being. However, when Asa doesn't answer, Yoru expresses that she feels hurt that Asa is afraid of her. Feeling guilty because of this, Asa relinquishes control of her body. Stunned to see herself back in control, Yoru uses this as the opportune moment to fire a bullet at the aging devil. 0.1 seconds later, another bullet tears across the globe. Turning to their left and stopping the enormous bullet, the aging devil sighs. They genuinely cannot believe the attack was aimed at them. Slapping the object with one of their hands, it quickly starts to wither away. The aging devil then deems that neither Pochita or her are mature enough to talk to them, and now it's time for both of them to grow up. Yoru aims to fire another bullet at the aging devil, however, the being Uno reverses the situation back on her by pointing and banging her first. Falling into darkness, Asa appears to take over control of the body and recognizes she's having that same chicken dream again. Confused, she asks if this is a dream and where she went. Upon waking, she arrives in an open forest surrounded by a lake. There, she eventually stumbles on an unconscious Denji. Yoru immediately takes control and tries to kill him, but nothing happens. Sticking her fingers in his mouth, she tries point blanking him multiple times with her finger gun, but it's again useless. Randomly, a half-naked dude then rolls over, interrupting the already awkward situation. This half-naked man welcomes the two newcomers to the world the aging devil created. He explains that he was once a respected devil hunter with friends and no complaints. One day though, he walked by a mirror and expressed how he'd do anything to stop his dramatic aging. He'd even go as far as making a contract with the aging devil if there was such a thing. The moment he uttered those words though, he found himself here, in this world. Asa asks him if he knows where the exit is, to which he admits he has no clue where it is. When she asks him how long he's been in here, he says he's been trapped for 82 years, and that he's the youngest occupant, much to her shock. The man continues to explain that hunger and thirst do not exist in this realm, and attempting Kermicide as an escape does not work. He also tells Asa that staying in this realm for too long will eventually drive anyone to insanity, and all other humans who have lost it have gone deeper into the woods. Asa asks if anyone has ever escaped it, to which he says someone did, but before he can elaborate, he tells Asa that it's time for him to turn insane as well. Flipping his switch, bro immediately starts acting cooked and asking her if she's an illusion of a woman named Ritsuko. Gripping the tree he'd just gotten a hold of, bro starts screaming out like a goat in distress. Running through the forest now, Asa tells herself not to panic. It dawns on her that this situation is similar to her run-in with the Eternity Devil, and as of such, she just needs to imagine this realm as belonging to her. Before she can continue, Yoru mimics shooting herself in the head to demonstrate to her host that they cannot use their powers here. She further showcases this by failing to transform a set of twigs into a sword. Wanting to know then what they'll do next, Asa asks what the plan is, though Yoru simply punches a tree in frustration. Before she can explain that she's no match against the aging devil, she realizes that the tree she's leaning against has a person embedded into it. Freaking out, Asa immediately rushes back to the spot where Denji lays, tripping over him in the process. God, I love how clumsy she is. Tripping is definitely going to be how she ends up dying, or the one part of her character development she's going to finally stop being clumsy in life. Either way, and continuing on, the half-naked man then returns, now somewhat more lucid than before, and welcomes Asa back, albeit still believing she's someone else. He explains that the tree people are his fellow victims who have stayed in the realm for 1,000 years, with their inevitable fate being to decompose and return to the soil. After this process is complete, only then will the victim leave the realm and reunite with their body on Earth. Angered by this revelation, Yoru hits Denji in the face and yells at him to wake up, blaming him for their current situation and for always getting her involved with strange devils. Gaining consciousness, he profusely apologizes, stating how every single person he meets winds up miserable. As penance for being a horny, empty-headed idiot, Denji says he'll allow himself to turn into a tree while reflecting on what he's done wrong. That shall be his punishment. Not having this, Yoru threatens to hit him if he doesn't stop crying, but our wet blanket only apologizes even more. Struggling to hold back tears, she readies to punch him again, only to lean in and give him another kiss. Breaking away from the kiss, Yoru tells Denji that crying won't help them get out of this realm. He interrupts her though, confused and just pissed off, asking why she's kissing him. Admitting the truth, Yoru says she finds him cute when he cries, which is insane how bro can never have a normal interaction with a woman. Leaning back in once more, Yoru kisses Denji again. This time, however, Denji forces Yoru off him, angry that she keeps coming onto him like his life alternates between sexy and terrible. Pausing to catch his breath, he explains that he can't reflect on his mistakes when his talkiness is high. Beating himself off more, Denji calls himself hopeless. Yoru tries to cheer him up by saying that she's hopeless too. Like him, she lost her family, but since even she could get over it, she knows he can too. Noticing that the attempt failed though, Asa punches Yoru in the face once more to regain control back over her body. Continuing with what she was just saying, Asa tells Denji how her mother died due to her own clumsiness. She thinks about it all the time, the things she could have done differently to make sure she got out alive. Moved, he asks her how she got over it, to which she admits that she really hasn't, but reminds him that Chainsaw Man taught her that she still has something to look forward to in life, something so valuable that she's willing to eat a crap burger for it. Going to say something, Denji's face screws up before he suddenly regurgitates the head of the Snow Devil. Moments later, the entire Aging Devil realm is blanketed in a thick layer of snow. Seeing these snowflakes fall all around him, Denji begins to remember a fond memory, a snowy boat ride to Hokkaido with Archean power. Upon remembering his grave trip to Hokkaido with Archean power, Denji wonders why he's suddenly thinking about his old friends, before once again puking up another devil, this time the bitterness devil. Feeling a bitter taste within his mouth, Denji jumps into the lake to refresh himself. Slowly descending underwater, he remembers the bitter coffee he shared with Reze at the Crossroads Cafe. As the memory of Reze turns to face Denji, he laments the painful reality that his loved ones keep disappearing from his life. All of them. He continues sinking deeper before another vision, this time one of Naota, Meowie and their dogs enter his mind, reminding him of the bonds he still holds dear. He knows he's been to hell and back already, so while wondering how he was able to keep smiling, he sees Pochita swimming towards him. Coming to a sudden realization, Denji realizes that Pochita didn't eat those devils to make him forget his traumas, but rather help him remember his reasons for living. Being dragged from the lake in his dreamscape, Asa throws him ashore and scolds Denji's ass for doing something so reckless. Face to the floor, Denji tells Asa that she and Pochita were right. He's been through a countless number of tragedies, and it's pretty evident that Naota, along with his family, is dead. There may even be nothing but hopelessness for the rest of his life. Even still, the sushi he just ate was pretty gank, and his third leg keeps making star appearances, so in his eyes, as long as the world has grub and girls, he still has something to live for. Asa urges Denji to make sense of their surroundings though, to which he responds by pointing out the massive size of the bitterness devil's head that he just threw up. Since it couldn't have come from his stomach, Denji concludes that his body must be linked with Pochita's in the real world, meaning he still has access to his devil powers in some way. With a sharp-witted plan in mind, Denji firmly tells Asa that it's time. He'll be the one to get them both out of this effed up world. Ignoring the screaming local for a moment, Asa asks Yoru what on earth Denji's plan could possibly be. He's just been running laps around the lake. Yoru theorizes that it's the same as the crazed native. He's escaping reality. Confused themselves, the aging devil appears before Denji and assumes he's running out of ideas, literally. Moving from tree to tree as he runs, the devil offers him a chance at freedom. They know his heart is connected to the Chainsaw Devil back on Earth, so all he wants to do is convince him to eat the aging devil. Denji asks why and what they would get out of it, but they reiterate their desire to be consumed at the cost of the lives of children. Denji tells them that they're evil and Chainsaw Man is a superhero. Plus, has it ever occurred to him that maybe Pochita also wants to save the children? Aging taunts him though, by implying that because he was able to move on so quickly from Naoto's death, he obviously didn't care much for her, to which he rebukes that they wouldn't even know anything about her relationship. Denji goes on to say that, regardless, he'll be able to move on and find another family, and if they die too, he'll keep finding new ones, to the point he creates a perpetual motion machine. Screaming out, he taunts the aging devil by stating that the only way to mess with his heart is to give him another family. Baffled, as they assumed the human Chainsaw Man would listen to reason, Aging dismisses him as no more than a complete moron. Interested in their plan, they ask what they're going to do. Surely he doesn't think he can just run from here. Slowing down though, Denji stops in his tracks and tells them they are the stupid one. His escape plan is already in motion. Yapping though, the aging devil monologues how their realm has no escape and the forest is just a side effect of the human brain believing that turning into a tree is the culmination of all thought. The devil says though that if these humans lived longer, they could have discovered unseen concepts, and that simply is their overall goal. They want humans to live longer in order to find those possibilities, even if it comes with a cost. Back on Earth, aging, having manifested, is now with public safety and sitting atop of Tadashi Hasegawa, who believes that he can lead the world in the right direction if only he lived longer. Continuing to talk with Denji, the aging devil asks how he could possibly be any different to the countless prisoners who came before him, to which the boy smiles. Unlike every prisoner before him, his stomach isn't here, and now that he's spent ages running, he's worked up quite an appetite. Forgetting about this Diavolo Devilino, Denji makes his way back to camp, only to see Asa distraught and disheveled. She did, however, do what he asked and created him an axe, explaining that she used a tooth from the devil he threw up earlier. Rushing over to the closest tree, Denji, with a powerful swing, thrusts his axe into the guts of a tree, causing its face to scream out in horror. The local also screams that the trees are people, but Denji tells him he's well aware of that and continues, rupturing the bark and spilling the guts of the tree. Grabbing a few strands, Bro starts chowing down, causing his ripcord to re-emerge on his chest. Looping his finger through, Bro pulls it, regenerating Pochita back on Earth. Sensing that Pochita is rapidly heading towards their location, the aging devil offers the nearby public safety members, Fumiko included, a contract. It's simple, give the aging devil access to their bodies to be used as weapons, and they'll be saved from the chainsaw devil's attacks. Unanimously, all agree, and the aging devil first sacrifices their nails to send forth a blade of aging that cleaves Pochita in half. Seeing the public safety members writhe in pain on the floor, Aging admits their method of attack is ugly, but they are determined to be devoured by him at any cost. Getting to her feet, Fumiko tries to rally her few colleagues by stating how at this rate, the prophecy will come true due to the War Devil and Chainsaw Man Church. However, if they can evolve mankind with Chainsaw Man's power, the age of humans will continue. Nervously sweating, she begs the aging devil to continue their attack and to use them as much as needed. The aging devil goes to attack once more, but Pochita regenerates almost immediately from Denji's continued eating in the other realm. Vanishing from the spot they stood, Pochita continues his reckless path towards the aging devil. The devil in response sacrifices Fumiko's liver, instantaneously decapitating the chainsaw devil with a blast of aging. Not slowing down though, Denji revs his ripcord, and Pochita's head, which had been sent flying, is dragged back to its body as it quickly regenerates. The aging devil attacks again, this time by sacrificing the eyes of an unnamed public safety member, decapitating the chainsaw devil once more as he approaches the group. However, instead of regenerating this time, Pochita uses his head to dig at his own chest, extracting his heart, which he then hurls straight towards the aging devil's open chest. The soaring heart of Pochita flops against the ground in front of the aging devil, who orders the public safety people around him to stomp on the heart. Before they are even able to get up, obviously due to the injuries they've suffered so far, Denji pulls his ripcord and regenerates Pochita's body. Fractions of a second later, Pochita shreds the aging devil to pieces. However, much like Pochita, they regenerate, while thanking him for giving them the most vivid and powerful pain they've ever experienced. Pointing their lanky-ass finger at the chainsaw devil, Aging morphs him into a berserkish tree-like object that can do no more than squirm. Over in the other dimension, Denji reveals that he ate all of the first tree's innards. Turning around, he proceeds to simply move to the next one. Readying his axe, the local stops him, exclaiming that he has no right to kill them, for they've lived on for millennia and have reached the truth. Denji proceeds to ignore him though and swing away, stating that they'd probably forgive him since he's feeding off them now. Watching Denji then continuously hack away at the tree, the dude thinks that he really is a devil. Pulling his ripcord once more, Denji gets Pochita to strike the Asian devil a second time, but after a moment they regenerate from his attack. Speaking up, they tell Denji to just eat him already as they have no other ways of killing them. Feeling like his own belly is about to explode, Denji screams out telling Pochita to make him barf up any useful devils if he's struggling. Listening to him, Pochita forces Denji to puke something back out. Turns out it wasn't exactly a devil though, but Yoshida, who had apparently been swallowed whole during the Chainsaw Devil's earlier rampage. Asa immediately recognizes him as the man who cut off her right arm and demands he apologize. Yoshida though points out the obvious, she still has both of her arms. Not apologizing either way, he asks what the current situation is. Giving him a quick rundown, Denji tells him about the aging devil's desire to be eaten in exchange for the lives of children, thinking it a bit perverted. Realizing that it's a devil with the power of communication, he deduces it'll most likely be working with public safety, technically making him and the others enemies. Seeing how it'd be stupid to fight though, he instead calls for a truce until they leave this world. He even asks Asa for forgiveness, apologizing for cutting off her arm earlier. Immediately attempting to punch him though, Yoshida easily blocks the attack and instead forms her hand into a handshake. Moving to Denji, he asks him to accept too, but the boy asks him if he's asking him to work with a group willing to murder youngins. Realizing he needs to dumb it down a little, Yoshida tells Denji a lesson he learned from his teacher about what they should do during a bear encounter, as neither human nor bear benefits from killing the other. Instead, they should strive to return to each other's natural environments. He remarks how he thought his teacher was being too kind to the bear at first, but he finds wisdom in their words now that they're in their current predicaments. Turning to the others, he says if they want to kill him, they should do it after they escape, or is he really about to be eaten again? Gritting his teeth, Denji reluctantly accepts his alliance, though he calls him sick in the freaking head. Asa, kinda jaded over the team up as well, asks what he even contributes since devil powers are useless in this realm. Having cottoned on to the fact that Denji's and Pochita's stomachs are linked though, Yoshida asks Denji if he can shove his hand down his throat. Plunging his arm deep into our boy's gut, Yoshida tells Octo to grab, but instead of grabbing the aging devil, it wraps itself around a nearby pole. Pulling back what remains of the other side, Yoshida notes how if they return right now, they'll just be obliterated instantly. Interested by what they just saw themselves, Aging notes that the group are trying to force their way back through to the living realm. Next up, Yoru takes control of Asa's body and tries her bang attack, but due to being unable to see, she misses. Needing that extra vision, she sticks her whole upper half into Denji's mouth, much to the horror of her fellow prisoner. She attempts to shoot the aging devil, only for them to retaliate first by pointing forth and rapidly aging Yoru's face. Unable to keep his jaw open, Denji vomits her back into the devil's dimension. Immediately feeling her face up and turning to the boys, she asks if she's still beautiful. The Goonas all unanimously agree, leaving her to curse at the aging devil for marring her beauty, even if for only a moment. In his own battle, Pochita decapitates the aging devil once again. However, Yoshida remarks that all the aging devil is doing is adding to the body count due to devil powers having no effect in their realm. Regenerating now using Fumiko's large intestine, the aging devil agrees and remarks how futile this fight is. They ask Pochita if they're getting sick of humans in an attempt to goad him into devouring his lotus root flavoured body. During this conversation though, an unknown figure steps next to the extremely wounded Fumiko on the floor, only for it to be revealed to be another Fumiko. The second Fumi talks about how hardy they are and that in their dying moment, she promised herself to side with the likelier victor. Leaving it up to her barely alive other self, the floor-bound Fumiko gives Yoshida her heart. Thanking her for it, Yoshida commands his octopus to swallow Mifune's heart. Fractions of a second later, the face of a Titanic-sized octopus rises out of the building. Enveloped in a world of darkness now, the aging devil contemplates if they were eaten by the chainsaw devil, only to notice Pochita's own devilish figure standing in front of them. Creeping through the darkness, a voice emanates from deep within, stating that they, George and Yaguchi, believed in the aging devil. They thought they'd been chosen for some noble cause, so questions why they sent that devil to their world. Before the aging devil can react, the oldie launches himself through Denji's mouth and grabs a hold of the aging devil. Back on Earth, the octopus devil vanishes, signaling that the aging devil has been pulled into its own dimension. One of the public safety agents, whose organs were sacrificed, looks up at Fumiko with disgust and disbelief. Turns out our girl is also contractually obligated with what I'm assuming is the cursed devil, just because of how similar that nail-type weapon looks to the one that Aki used to have. Back in the aging devil's realm, turns out it wasn't just the aging devil who was yanked into the realm, but also the old mofo the devil had been sitting on. Yoshida begins to negotiate with that devil, pointing out how since they aren't already dead, it's prevalent that the aging devil cannot use their powers in their own realm. In order to get everyone out of here safely, Yoshida proposes the devil make a contract with them. The terms are that they will return to their respective worlds and never fight each other again. The aging devil asks what would happen if they refuse, only for Denji to point out how, since everyone can leave through his mouth, the aging devil would be stuck with him here forever. Staring blankly into the distance, Eijin realizes she got freaking duped by the yapper of the century. Back in Japan, it seems like the tide has turned in the battle between the civilians and the pseudo-chainsaw men, with groups of the former ganging up and beating the latter. Denji, Asa, Fumi, Fumiko, and Yoshida are then all shown ordering drinks and food at a cafe, only for another pseudo-chainsaw man to rush in and try to attack them. Before they can react, the aggressor is struck down by more civilians. Putting that to the side for now, Yoshida remarks how happy he is that they can all return to their normal lives. Elsewhere in the world, and now free himself, the Aging Devil's only surviving victim has taken a job as a construction worker. I don't know why, but I'd love a chapter that focuses solely around this guy, and just his struggles with coming back to reality 82 years later. If the series takes place in the 80s, like I'm pretty sure it does, then it's possible he has no idea about either World War or anything major that's taken place globally. It also makes sense that he'd work in construction and not with technology. It's definitely more refined than back in the day, but not so foreign that he wouldn't be a useless worker now. Enough of me just creating some random fanfic in my head though, and funnily enough, that old representative that the Aging Devil was sitting on, Hasegawa, is shown to be left alone in the snowy dimension. I'ma just say Denji didn't bring him through on purpose. Like, what that man had cooked up was truly insane. Yeah, I don't even know. So that there officially brings us to the very end of what is the Aging Devil arc from Tatsuki Fujimoto's Chainsaw Man. Dude is absolutely insane. This entire arc in general is insane, and Naoto's death, not really, like obviously the death itself, that kind of happened towards the end or right at the end of the Chainsaw Man Church arc, but the reveal to Denji was just heartbreaking, and I couldn't believe what I was reading when I was actually going through and reading it. And then just the stuff that came afterwards, the absolute destruction from the Chainsaw Devil or Pochita, as we see him for the second time in the series here, was sublime, and I love to see it. To then obviously the introduction of a primal fear, that being the Aging Devil, who comes up with an insane contract, probably the most insane contract so far in the series, mainly because it, specifically targets children, whereas Makima's herself, with the mass amount of people that it targeted, was just Japanese citizens or people throughout Japan, I'm pretty sure. Something like that. This one here was much more maniacal in its making, and then finally, obviously, Denji and his battle against the Aging Devil in, combination with Pochita in the real world, and them kind of like having this Eternity Devil type battle inside of the Aging Devil's realm, but them not actually being able to use any form of like abilities or anything like that, leads to this, pretty hilarious way that Denji actually manages to escape the realm by using, some Una reverse card on the Primal Devil. Honestly, I thought it was a great way to end the arc, and I never really know what to expect from Tatsuki. It's just, he can go from obviously jorking it with Denji and Asa to like literally the next minute Naota is being revealed to him, and it's just, it's crazy. So obviously, if you have enjoyed this video, because a lot of time went into it and everything, I'd love for you to leave a like down below and help push this video to like 5k likes or something. And if you are new around here, then do subscribe, as it really helps in just pushing my content to a bunch of new amazing people. Of course, be sure to check out the Patreon if you want to get early access to all of my content, and thank you to all of my amazing patrons. I am going to be covering like what's kind of gone on so far throughout the Death Devil arc in Chainsaw Man. I do need to catch up and read the like latest 2 or 3 chapters, but I've pretty much got that scripted, so I'm going to move straight onto that after this. Either way, enough of me rambling on. For now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.